excited to be here. I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years now. Some of you may know us for our cafes. So my husband and I were dating 11 months when we were laid off from corporate America, him on a Tuesday, me on a Thursday of the exact same week in November of 2014. Gotta love it. And he said, you know, I'm really all done with corporate America. Can we have our own business? And I said, yeah, we can, but I'm going to go back in because we're responsible adults, and quite frankly, we're like entering the retirement zone. So what are we doing here? And so we decided, told him, you pick, and he picked a cafe. He loves coffee. I love him. I don't drink coffee. It's way too much caffeine. And so that's what he's decided on, was a coffee shop. So we opened one. We didn't make any money, so we knew we needed to scale. So we opened another one near, so we opened Birkin's Blend Cafe. Anybody know what Birkin's is? Yes.
I've heard of Birkin's.
Oh, you've heard of it. Do you know why it's called Birkin's? No. Okay, so my husband's last name is Barber, mine is Hawkins, because I'm a feminist, yes I am. And so we combined our two last names. So Burr and Kins, put it together. And we were getting married and blending our family. So we added Birkin's Blend, and that's how we came up with the name of our cafe. That was our first one. Then we opened one. One of our customers came in and said, you got to open near the state capitol. There's a place. So we opened in the CEA building at 21 Oak Street, and that was Birkin's on Oak. So the first one we called BBC. The second one we called Boo, Birkin's on Oak. And then we opened right here at the Wadsworth Athenaeum. We were there for a couple of years. That one was on Main Street, so we call that one Bomb, Birkin's on Main. And then we moved that one to the Hartford Public Library. So over 10 years, we've operated those cafes. And in June, this past June of 2025, my husband retired. And yeah, he's been living the retirement life. We closed out, our first cafe was the last one that we closed, and we closed that on our 10th anniversary. So it was fun. It was a fun ride, and we can have a whole other conversation about the ups and downs of cafes and how it all works. Kind of in the middle of all of that activity, I was working in corporate America. So over the course of my career, I worked at Aetna, Cigna, MassMutual, the Hartford, United, at Optum, Prudential, and TIAA-CREF. I did finance, I did operations, I did product development, I did marketing, I worked with some executives. I like to say I created my own adult rotation program. I did a lot of different things. And after that, someone said to me, you should really think about consulting. And I said, no. So I've hired a bunch of consultants, and all they do, come in, they take all your good ideas, they put them on a fancy PowerPoint, and they leave, and you're no better. And I think that's highway robbery. I will not do it. Then someone said, no, you need to come check out this consulting firm called the Clarion Group. They're all about human-centered design. Well, they had me at human-centered design. So I went and worked for them for about 3 years. And I was building out some of their intellectual property, and I thought to myself, why are you building this for them? Do this for yourself. And so 6.5 years ago, I started leading Culture Solutions. And like I said, helping people with culture and really making organizations stronger and making sure that you're committed to that and not just getting paid, right? It's all about how do we make sure we're creating organizations where everyone can thrive. So that brings me to the conversation about humanity, right? And this thought about artificial intelligence, right? So artificial intelligence, A, is not artificial, and B, is not intelligent, right? Because what brings intelligence really is our humanity. And as long as artificial intelligence will be called that, we will need humanity in the center of it. Oh, yeah, no signal. How many of you are using artificial intelligence today? I'm going to say everyone should raise your hand, because whether you want to be or you don't want to be, you're using artificial intelligence because it's embedded in so many of the basic tools that we're all using today, right? So if you're using Chrome, you're probably using, is it Chrome and Copilot? Or is it Microsoft and Copilot? Whatever. Microsoft and Copilot. It's embedded in our tools now. There's really not a way around it for us. So if you believe you're not using it, and you may have, so we have 3 daughters, adult daughters, 33, 28, 26, and our middle girl is up at McGill finishing up a biochem PhD program, and she is just like, I will not use it. It is horrible for the planet. It's terrible until they find another way. Did you need me to do anything?
No, you're all set. You can click
There
through.
you go. Okay. Perfect. Is this the first page or the last page?
I think it might be the first page. Is it not working?
That's the last I saw. I clicked through the whole presentation.
Here.
Hang on.
Okay, yeah, so this is the end. Click that. Alright, there we go. Okay. So she refuses to use artificial intelligence, and I have to gently say to her, it's embedded. Like, there's really nothing you can do. This is terrible for our planet. We're all gonna die. I'm like, I know, we're all on that path. We are. But I understand, right? There are a lot of ethical issues around it, but I do believe it's just like everything else. When we introduce new technology, it's clunky, it's bad, it's inefficient, it's all those things until we figure out how to refine it. And that's where we are with AI, right? It's been introduced, it's been around for a while now. I'm gonna say, close to 10 years. But it hasn't been really mass used until we're in that phase now. All right. But let's talk about this, right? You can't automate humanity. And we'll talk a little bit about why. So we need to have the conversation now. Because like I said, everyone's using it. I use it every day. I'm one of those hogs that's like, wake up in the morning and before I do anything else, I'm a very curious person. AI was meant for someone like me that every day I probably ask 50 questions or more, or 100 questions a day. I'm just naturally curious. And I feel like I would have been a lot smarter. I'm not blaming my mother, I'm not. But not for nothing. I feel like if she knew more, I would know more and I'd be smarter. And who knows, I could have been the president. Whatever. We're not there. We're not there. But it's important because AI is going to change all of our lives. It's going to change the way we do things. So there's a data point here from McKinsey, and this is 2023, and I would say from a data standpoint, this is old news. But 75% of leaders say that AI adoption is moving faster than an organization's ability to manage risks, ethics, or workforce impact. I see that every day in the work that I do. Many of my clients are implementing AI. Some are not, because they're like, we just don't know where to begin. I'm like, well, good for you. Because now you're not starting something that's taking time away from what you're trying to do when you don't know how to use it. So there is a path that you can follow to figure out how you want to deploy AI in your organization. What are some of those questions you can ask yourself? But many of the larger organizations have just said, no, we're doing it, right? And people are spending more time than they would just using the processes that they had in place in the first place. So one of these first things is to just stop and ask ourselves, what are we using it for? What problem are we trying to solve? It's one of the questions that I ask the most in life, right? When I approach, a situation, I'm like, what are we doing? What problem are we trying to solve here? And let's get aligned on that. So our reflective question for this one is, what decisions about AI are already shaping your cultures? And even if you didn't intend them to. So how is that, is it detracting from the work that you're trying to do or trying to deliver on your mission because you're just trying to be in it with everyone else? So let's talk about the reality of AI. You know what AI is really good at? These things. Handling data, understanding patterns, and doing tasks that are very routine. But humans bring meaning, judgment, and responsibility to all of what we do every single day. So another data point. So MIT Sloan, AI performs best in bounded, repeatable environments. Humans outperform in ambiguous, values-based decisions. So the question here is, where do you rely on pattern recognition and where do you rely on discernment? Where are you trying to make decisions and need to make decisions? I think about how I use AI, and I say to people all the time, I'm like, look, yeah, for some jobs, AI is going to take your job, But for the work that I do every day, that I'm creating every day, right? For that work, I have to tell it. I have to give AI context for it to give me back something meaningful. It does not have context. It has a lot of information, but that is not context. And I love my AI. I always think to myself, like, wow, I work with a lot of different clients. I de-identify my data so that AI doesn't know which client I'm talking about. And AI tries to create relationships between what one client is doing and another client is doing because it doesn't have the client information. So I'll say, oh no, that was for another client, and I just kind of move on. So, well, is this related to that? Like, no, they're not connected. So I don't know who my AI thinks I am, or who my clients are, or what they're doing. So I think that's kind of comical, again, because context matters. So let's talk about the whys. So reason one, humans give meaning. AI handles facts. Humans give them meaning. So, right? Context, we just talked about that. But meaning involves also how you feel about something, right? You may have an opinion to the left or to the right, and I don't mean politics, please, right? But you may have different ideas about things just based on all of our lived experience, and that's what we bring to this. And our meaning guides our purpose. And so our purpose is our why. Back to, again, what problem are we trying to solve here? And let's get aligned on the problem and not use AI to put Band-Aids on symptoms. Because putting Band-Aids on symptoms are not going to really produce much, truly, right? We've all probably seen this. So one of the case examples here is AI can analyze employee survey results. Humans decide whether feedback signals mistrust, disengagement, or a need for leadership repair. Right? So this is important. Like we have to assess this. We have to feel it. AI can't feel. Right? Have you ever walked into a meeting and you know that something was happening before you got there and no one's even saying anything, but you know because you can feel it? AI does not have that, right? So our question here is, who in your organization decides what the data means? I'm not asking you to respond because at the end I am going to ask you sort of what you feel about this. How are you all deploying it? What's the human connection for you? So let's talk about reason two. Judgment is a human act, right? And again, it requires ethics, context, consequences, accountability. Can you hold AI accountable to something? No, right? Leaders have to be held accountable to whatever the decisions are. So the data point here, Harvard Business Review, over-reliance on algorithmic recommendations increases error when context shifts or stakes rise. So the example here is an AI hiring tool screened candidates inefficiently until leaders recognize it filtered out non-traditional talent with high long-term performance. Wow, there's a lot of bias out there in the interwebs, and not for nothing, that gets right into what you're producing. I see it as a woman, I see it as an African American, I see it as a height restricted human, right? There's a lot of bias that gets embedded in what you're doing. And the only way you can see it is by producing it. And I'll tell you how I saw it very easily. The very first time, I used a tool called Gamma. Anybody else here use Gamma? Love Gamma!
For presentations.
It's great. It's so great. So I use it a lot for what I do. And I would say to it, create a picture, or include a picture that has professional people around a conference table. And it would give me a bunch of white men with suits on. I'd be like, I need a little more diversity, please, right? And it would give me people of color, but it wouldn't give me, like, from a diversity standpoint, it wouldn't give me people with, obvious disabilities or, other visual cues of diversity. So you have to provide that context. So the question here is, when data and judgment conflict, which do you trust and why? So reason 3, ethics need human responsibility. People have to take ethical ownership. So when we think about ethics, we think about responsibility. Are we holding a hand responsible? Or not, right? People hold moral responsibility. Are your morals and my morals the same? Maybe. Right, maybe, maybe not. So we all have a different idea of morals because we've all had a different lived experience. We have to take that into consideration because that's how we all make decisions every single day, with AI or without. It is based on our lived experience. So the data point here is the OECD AI principles. Accountability for AI outcomes must always remain with humans, not systems. So the question here we're asking is, who is accountable in your organization when AI gets it wrong? So reason 4, creativity needs connection. And it emerges from connection. What we are doing today is connecting, right? And we're sharing ideas about how we're experiencing this. But that creativity is going to come from culture, again, lived experience, history, lived experience, emotion, lived experience, right? And relationship, right? So in that, there's definitely some lived experience even in that relationship piece. So in the case example, the AI-generated marketing copy performed adequately until human teams infused lived experience and cultural nuance, doubling engagement. Doubling engagement. So the question here is, where does creativity in your organization come from? Efficiency or connection? So let's talk about the next reason, empathy. You cannot simulate empathy, right? And we really gain and grow empathy based on us sitting down and having a conversation. And me understanding your lived experience. Me understanding this point in time that we're in and why we're in this point in time, right? And having understanding. It's understanding the emotions. It's me being genuine in the exchange with you. It's understanding context. If you start crying in the meeting, or your face turns red, or you give me some other visual cue that you're not okay, I can respond to that differently than I might have. I was going to send you home today because you didn't wear the uniform of our office, and then you told me about how your washing machine broke and how you didn't have an opportunity to clean it. My 2-minute warning, my favorite music. Sorry about that. Hello, Aretha.
Sure.
Okay. And then responding with compassion. The data point here is a recent study in the Harvard Business Review found that empathy is the most important leadership skill, correlating positively with employee performance, engagement, and retention. The reflective question here is, how are you cultivating and demonstrating genuine empathy in your interactions and within leadership? AI is never going to replace that. Right. All right, it's switched out. That's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'll make it work.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
It's clearing the.
No problem. Oh. There we go. All right. Leadership is relational. It's about the people. It's always about the people, the leadership, right? We don't come in and have huddles with AI. It's about the people. How are we doing? It involves trust, influence, courage, moral clarity. You have to be clear, right? And this moral clarity is also connected to not only the organization's values, but our personal values. And where we see the most challenge with getting things done, no matter what, is between that disagreement between the organization's values and your personal values. The reflective question here is, what leadership moments in your role require presence, not automation? You can't automate everything. This next one is about culture is lived, not coded, right? And it's culture, right? We're all living culture. So what is happening here? Daily interactions, what gets rewarded, how power is used, how people behave when the leaders are not in the room. Culture. AI has no culture at all. And the question here is, what behaviors does your technology quietly reinforce? Humanity adapts beyond logic. Humans adapt through resilience. I don't know about you, we can have a whole separate conversation about resilience and how we're doing, because we're seeing some of the younger generations, might I say, really struggling with resilience. And how do we help in the workplace? Improvisation, learning from failure, navigating uncertainty. What's our question here? How are you fostering adaptability and resilience within your team, knowing that unforeseen challenges are inevitable? Will AI replace humans?
No.
Never, right? So what we want to ask, how are we designing systems where humanity is leading and technology is supporting? Have you all ever worked in an organization where everyone runs to go build things, but they never say, like, what is the process and what problem are we solving? And then they deliver technology that doesn't meet the needs of the process and the customer? Yeah, well, it's kind of, this is very similar. So who gets to decide in your organization? So what does this mean? Leaders are responsible for ethical boundaries, human-centered design, getting the people into it, and technology in the service of people. So thinking about our closing, AI is going to help us expand what is possible, but humanity is going to help us determine what is meaningful. So we need to make sure we have organizations that lead with values. Some organizations don't even have values, so we do a lot of work in this space. Protect judgment, and most importantly, honor humanity. The most advanced systems in the world still require human wisdom. What can this community do for you? Turn it over.
No, it's Q&A, so you run that. Any questions
Fantastic.
for Andrea? Thank you very much, Andrea.
Thank you. Yes.
So as we delegate more decision-making authority to predictive models and AI, for instance, scheduling, hiring, compensation, lots of things in HR domains. Pros and cons of this, separate conversation. But as we delegate more authority to these predictive models, how do you see that affecting the emotional relationship between leaders and employees?
That's a really great question. I think I'd go back to the conversation we were just having a little bit about bias and making sure that as you're developing these systems using technology, that humans are in the process and there's adequate testing to be sure that bias isn't holding, bringing some employees forward and holding other employees backward. So thinking about compensation, thinking about talent acquisition, talent hiring, and things like that. Really making sure that humans are in the system building it, and it's not just two people over here that have always done the work and they look the same and maybe went to the same colleges and kind of think similarly. So at LCS, there are 3 things that we talk about for strong organizations. You want to always make sure you have diverse perspective. And when we think about diversity, I'm doing this because there's a diversity wheel that's got diversity dimensions on it. We want to make sure we have as much representation. So age, race, gender, where you live, where you went to college, all the different lived experiences. Having those folks at the table as you're starting to build these things, right? As you're saying, what are my requirements, right? What problems are we trying to solve? How are we going to build it? In the testing, right? Once it's built, once you start testing it, making sure, again, you have a diverse group of people that are testing it that are going to see things from different points of view. So I think it's important for leaders to make sure that diversity, diverse perspectives, collaborative decision-making, and shared authority is happening. So those are the 3 guiding principles that I was mentioning. So making sure that those 3 are really being lived will ensure that you are addressing the bias in the system. I'm not against technology. I think technology helps us do everything that we do. What I'm against is there not being enough diverse perspectives and collaborative decision-making happening.
But and that's important. I was struck by a comment I heard the other day of, for instance, in a cafe setting,
Yeah.
you're doing a schedule for your employees, and typically now the manager is creating a schedule, and so that creates an emotional incentive for employees to be cooperative, nice, collegial, because they're hoping for some, I need next Sunday off, and so there's a give and take.
Yeah, employees today take off when they want to take off. We don't really make a schedule. And I'm not even joking.
Okay.
Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, people do what they want. You don't. I'm always amazed. People are like, oh, I had to work. I'm like, really? Because our employees say to us, like, I can't work on that time. Even though on my application I said, here are the hours I'm available, something has come up. We had someone that accepted the job and said, oh, somebody else came and offered me another job, and now their hours conflict with your hours, so I'm going to work those hours. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Very cool. So I love that thought and that idea, not this generation. Yeah. I think it's the other way. Yes.
So, trying to figure out how to phrase my question. So, I was listening to a statistic this morning about there being between 23 and 30% of, college graduates like really not being able to get a job because a lot of the entry level positions are disappearing. But then simultaneously, I was listening to a great example of, when people go to use AI, to your point about them not coming in with reasoning and judgment and skill sets, they're prompting AI at like a 100 level for college, as opposed to the 600 level that, the senior person with lots of lived experience is prompting. Do you also and the argument was being made that we need more 300 level people, and how do we, because that would actually help to diversify the voices and whatnot that come in, because they're not here, they haven't worked very long, and they've been still coming out of a college experience that is now old, right? How do you help, do you have any suggestions in terms of the ecosystem of the workforce for, cultivating that 300 level as a way to facilitate diverse voices and creativity?
I love this question. What I would say is, first of all, people are coming in certain situations. Some folks are coming out of college with low reading language levels. Say that. And what I would say is, yes, you have to have some lived experience for you to get to that 300 level. Maybe you're coming out at a 100 level. But the people that are going to get left behind are people that have low language level, right? These are large language models, right? So these models are based on lots of complex terms and concepts. So it is important for, first of all, we have a gig economy. Everybody's gigging. I don't know one person that only does one thing. So when people say, I can't find a job, well, you might not be able to find a traditional job, but everybody's gigging. So find a way to gig until you can get to a job. That's what I would say for people that are struggling with trying to find those jobs. I would also say continue to work on your language and your language level and being able to describe things in the way I do that for myself. Like I said, I wake up, I'm on ChatGPT asking questions every day. I read a lot of stuff, right? I read novels, and I read, reference books, and I do read self-help books, and I just read. And that's what helps build your language level. So for the people that, if you have young people, encourage them to read. And some people don't like to read, get Audible. Listen, you still will, right? If that's what you need to do and that's the way you need to take it in, figure out the way you learn and take it in that way, but continue to expose yourself to new ideas and new ways to think about things. Just terms. I was reading a book the other day, and when I say reading, literally I have my iPhone in the shower on Audible, and I actually was listening to The Art of War. You want to read that yet? It's a great read. I'm going to read it a couple of times more because it was an hour, first of all. And it had some really fantastic concepts in it, and it forced me to write some things down and say, what is this? I don't even know what this term means, so let me go look that up, right? And I'm continuing. So that elasticity will continue to happen if you continue to use that muscle that way, right? So that's what I would say is, gig for people that are struggling with finding jobs and for organizations to pull in those voices, because truly many of the products that they're creating are going to be for that generation. So you better understand what they want and how they want it, or else what are you building for? Who are you building for? You need to really be open to that idea. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Wonderful. Can I answer any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
So I read somewhere that most applications, online applications, more than 75% don't make it to the HR department.
Agreed.
How is one?
Network.
Sorry.
But finish your questions.
So how do one get beyond that? And what criteria do the AI use to kick that application out?
Yeah, network. Expand your network. So just like I'm talking about read everything, go places that you don't think you belong there. Expose yourself to new ideas and new people. Last night there was an event at TheaterWorks last night for CIL. Anybody hear of this organization? I'd never heard of it before, but they build they create housing solutions with people with disabilities. Literally, they will go in and make doorways wider and just make your door more accessible for you to come in and out if you're in a wheelchair, right? I don't really know much about this organization, but when I went there, I learned a lot about the organization, and I thought it was so cool because guess what? I'm in the middle of doing strategic planning with Habitat for Humanity, North Central Connecticut. So I'm going to go and talk to them about CIL, and is there an opportunity for partnership as they're thinking about home building? Because one of the things that they said in their strategic planning session we just did last week was we want to create more accessibility in the homes that we build. Well, man, wouldn't it be great for them to have some sort of a partnership together? So go places, meet people, expand your network. If you're looking for a job, look on your LinkedIn to see who's connected to the people at that company. Reach out to that person and say, hey, will you introduce me to so-and-so? Right in LinkedIn. It can happen. It's super easy. That's the biggest way to get jobs, is finding out and having people in your network that are willing to endorse you and say, we think you should hire this wonderful woman because first of all, she wears fabulous lipstick and she will show up and do the thing.
Yeah, I try to tell my network of folks that, just you may be uncomfortable, but you should be laser focused on what you want to achieve. Go to that uncomfortable feeling just for a moment.
Yes, agree. And people are human,
Yes.
right? And everyone's been in that place where they wanted a job and they need help getting it. So people can relate to that idea. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Fantastic. Who else? Yes.
Thank you for a great presentation.
Thank you.
I'm in healthcare,
Okay.
and so AI has been kind of like a dirty word in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And
As it should be, but
yeah, so I help MPs cultivate their business brand so they can open up their own practices and help serve the community needs. And I always tell them that AI should be used as a tool.
Right.
So AI should be the doing, so that you can be the being. Be present, be engaged,
that's right.
be there for your patient. And so how can we communicate that in a way that makes people less fearful of AI? Who have that fear?
I think first you gotta understand what the fear is all about, sort of what's at the root of the fear first. It might be, right, think about when computers came out. They're like, I don't want to talk to the computer, I might destroy everything, it may delete everything, right? There was like real legitimate fear. So I would say start with understanding the fear first, and then meet people where they are. AI is not for everything in every organization. So really, bring the people together, the fearful people, the people that are not fearful, and say start to roadmap what makes sense for this organization for how we use AI. We will use AI for these reasons. We will not use AI for these reasons, right? For these work situations. That's what I mean, work situations. So get aligned on what it is. And I would say start small. Test it, see if it's really saving, achieving your goals, whatever it is, saving time, improving the experience, whatever you want for it to do for you. So really, I would say, I know this sounds so nerdy, but document what problem you're trying to solve. I know I keep saying that, but it really is true. What are you trying to accomplish? If you're trying to create adoption of something that you've already implemented, then I would say, bring the fearful people together and talk about what it is, because it's hard, right? It's like for all of us. I don't like flying things, but you cannot make me not be afraid of the flying thing by saying, don't be afraid, it can't bite you. That doesn't work, right? So similarly, I would say, you can't say to people, don't be afraid, it's fine, you'll do fine. It's come find out, what's underneath? I've never been stung. I don't even, even if you ask me why I'm afraid of flying things, I don't really know why. I just don't like things flying around me. They're little, they're fast. So I would just say, understand what's at the root cause, try to address that, and then introduce them, meet them where they are, and introduce. And sometimes less is more. I think we talked about that, right? Less is more. So if we really only want to do it because we want to keep track of our patients and be able to send out those letters reminding them of their upcoming appointment, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what the benefit is to the client, the benefit is to the organization, and to the person. Everybody wants the with them.
A lot of our practice owners are solopreneurs, so they're doing absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And so I just say AI can be that assistant or that tool that can really help you become more efficient. But it's that whole bit of control. Do you give up control?
Sure.
So I agree, meeting them where they are, trying to work with them to get them to where they can utilize the technology and see the benefit of it.
That's right. That's right. They do have to understand the with them.
We have time for one more.
One more question?
Benefit.
Yeah.
Andrew, great presentation.
Thank you.
I remember you, I think, from Reset.
I was just going to say, you look so familiar to me. I was trying to figure out why, so thank you for that comment. I love that.
So you have a lot of corporate experience, a lot of entrepreneurship experience, well-rounded and leadership, I would say. We recently invested in our first cohort at Escape Velocity, 3 startup companies that are on the early stage side, but ready to launch, more or less. Scalable companies. What advice would you give to them at this point where they are right now as they venture into the next phase of their growth?
Are you interested in how it connects to AI or just in general?
Just in general.
Just in general?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say you can't do everything. Like when you start a business, you have to do everything, but you're one human and you can't do everything. So figure out the things that you really enjoy doing and do those things, and find someone else to do the things that you're not good at or you don't enjoy, right? So that's kind of one thing that I wish somebody had said to me early on. I always, always, always have a chief operating officer and an admin, like administrative coordinator, who does like my scheduling and all the making sure that all the trains run on schedule and that I'm where I'm supposed to be and everything. So those are the areas where I'm okay, but the chief operating officer stuff is very time consuming. So as much as I can do it, I don't have the time to do it. So I would that's kind of one big thing that early on I wish someone had said. And always, 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 like have an accountant. Like even if you have to get free services, and there are a lot of ways to get those services, I made the very expensive mistake of I did tax accounting for the first job in my career, serious job, and I made a $20,000 mistake. And when you're running a business, $20,000 and you're starting up, it's a lot of money. So it was a very expensive, dumb mistake, unnecessary, right? Yeah. So I would just say again, like, think about all the things you have to do. I'm a big proponent these days, especially of doing business architectures. So I think when you start up, do a business architecture for yourself so that you know what needs to get done and you have a sense for what's not getting done, right? What you don't have. So crafting that out is really, I think also, I wish somebody had said to me, like, look at your business architecture. Look at the things that are being done and what's not being done and what kind of risk is that creating for you? Or benefit is it creating for you if you're doing some things well? Can you do more of that? That's what I would say. And don't be afraid. We started our first business. I was 49. My husband was 51. I'm 60. We've been in business for 10 years. I don't know why I didn't start sooner. I think I've always was meant to be an entrepreneur. I do love the variety of being an entrepreneur. Did that answer your question?
Nailed it.
Thank you, Andrea, for a
Thank
wonderful
you.
presentation.
Thanks for
Here's a gift from us, a thermos,
Exciting. Thank you.
Millie Cup style.
Thank
and
you.
It's hand washable, please.
Oh, wonderful.
And,
Okay.
enjoy, and please come back and give us an update in a few months. And if you have any, I know you support a lot of local businesses and startups, and if you think somebody's will be benefit from presenting, and we'd love to hear their story.